Chapter 1823 Asgard and the Eight Tribes. His intelligence had already been collected by the mechanical civilization, so the first time he faced him, the demon god knew how to fight. Saladin really felt his body trembling. If the body transformed from shadow continued to turn into a two-dimensional shadow, he would face the risk of being difficult to recover. Before he could think of the next countermeasures, a powerful red energy cannon burst out from the gun blade in the demon god's left hand, turning into a beam of light that penetrated the space between the two and reached Saladin in an instant. Ghost form. Saladin's body reacted very quickly. As the leader of the assassin sect, his fighting method focused on attacking and killing. Speed and concealment were his greatest advantages. He retreated at a high speed, and his body did not turn into a shadow, but suddenly expanded. The huge black cloak fluttered in the air, like a black cloud that quickly dispersed in the wind. A huge black cloud formed in the air, and its expansion became larger and larger, and finally turned into a huge black cloud with a diameter of more than 10 kilometers. The dark cloud was as black as ink, revealing Saladin's face. He opened his mouth wide, and a dark energy wave condensed in his mouth, and then blasted towards the demon god G from the sky. The demon god G opened his own defense field to resist the attack of his force, and the gun blade in his right hand immediately launched a counterattack. At this time, dozens of shadow demon warriors were surrounding him at a very fast speed. The demon god G's eyes condensed, but his attention had been attracted by the huge cloud in the sky, and Saladin's attack arrived at the same time. The shadow demon warriors formed an encirclement, and after getting close enough to him, they exploded directly. Groups of black light emerged one after another, completely submerging the space where the demon god G was. Saladin's attack also arrived in front of the demon god G at the same time. But just a moment later, a huge red light column shot up into the sky, shattering all the invading black energy. The demon god G raised his head and looked up at the huge black cloud in the sky. He instantly soared into the air with a huge gun blade in his hand and rushed into the black cloud. "I don't know whether to say you are brave or stupid. You dare to come to my territory." Saladin's voice sounded like thunder. After the demon god G rushed into the black cloud, black thunder-like energy flashed around him, looming around him, gradually forming a closed cage. Energy level determination completed. The core center of the demon god G has completed the analysis of Saladin's power. Energy output rate increased to 300%. On his mechanical arm, a red energy crystal embedded in it suddenly burned, emitting a blazing light, which actually penetrated the thick black cloud and shot in all directions. In Nosamin Federation area, the alien team of the European Alliance appeared here. Their mission goal is to clear out the mechanical army led by the demon Godrun who is operating here. Today's European Alliance is no longer the same as before. With the coming of the end of the world, a large number of former allied countries have left the Europa Alliance due to internal chaos. But so far, there are still 13 countries in it. But the one who really controls the matter is the powerful alien organization, Asgard, headed by France and Prussia. And in this battle, they sent more than half of the powerful aliens here. Among all the alien troops, their strength is definitely at the forefront. Strictly speaking, it is not inferior to the Huashu country team led by Zhang Yi and the alien team of Fremons. It may be second only to the Knights of the Round Table, who completed the independent underwater ancient civilization copy and obtained huge benefits. After all, whether it is France or Prussia, they are all world-ranked powers when they are taken out separately. The war has already started, and the three aliens in the lead stand on a ruin, looking at the enemies in front of them with different expressions. As the leader, they need to deal with the opponent's strongest demon Godrun and those super-large mechanical life forms with extremely strong destructive power. Standing at the front of the team was a brilliant and dazzling being. He was wrapped in silver armor and rode an 8-winged Pegasus that was also fully armored, with blazing fire burning on its hooves. The luxurious combat uniform was made using the most advanced technology of the European Alliance. He held a silver spear in his right hand, and strands of lightning flowed on the spear like silver snakes, exuding a terrifying aura. If you look closely, you will find that the light and shadow of the space around him are distorted by the powerful force. So the other two people next to him kept a sufficient distance from him tacitly. The other two were a girl who is only about 1.6 meters tall, with a head full of purple messy hair and a huge silver cross on her shoulder. However, one end of her cross was inlaid with a battle axe, which looked very much like an ancient weapon, a fascinator. The other was an elegant and enchanting woman, dressed in red, and even the long hair that fell to her hips was red. A strong bloody smell surrounded her. Anyone who approached her within a radius of 50 meters would be infected by the bloody smell and choose to stay away. These three people were the three giants of Asgard: God King Odin, god of tricks Loki, and goddess of death Hela. On the far opposite side of them, the demon god Ren had already been waiting here. This was a completely unusual demon. He had 6 spider-like legs, a thick and bloated upper body, a huge hand cannon in his left hand, and a huge sword-shaped weapon in his right hand. Odin looked at the enemy in front of him and suddenly raised the silver spear in his hand. The eternal spear, Gungnir, was thrown directly in the direction of the demon god Ren. At this moment, time seemed to have suddenly stopped. The movements of all living and non-living things in the entire battlefield stopped, leaving only the eternal spear approaching the demon god Ren at a constant speed. The target locked by the eternal spear will definitely be penetrated. This is a causal weapon that cannot be avoided. It will eventually take the target's location as its eternal trajectory and never stop. It seems that time has stopped, but it is only because its speed is too fast, and it hits the chest of the demon god Ren in an irresistible manner. Boom! The silver lightning spear hit the invisible defense field, and the violent explosion swept in all directions like a silver snake flying in the sky. Under the influence of the electric current, all the mechanical life forms around fell into a state of chaos and crashed directly. Odin's eternal spear cannot be avoided, and must rely on its own strength to force it. This created an opportunity for Loki and Hela. Loki carried the cross-battle axe that was bigger than her body, jumped down from a height, and ran towards the area where the super-large mechanical life forms were. Her speed was so fast that it was unimaginable, and her body was actually exposed without any combat uniforms to run wildly on the ground with 2 white legs. Boom. 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 The laser cannons of the super-large mechanical life forms formed a large net in front of her and covered her. But at this point in the battle, the various Inhuman troops had already become familiar with the fighting methods of these conventional mechanical life forms and had found effective strategies to deal with them. The enhanced Inhumans who could fight in close combat were the best choice to defeat them. The second choice was to deal with the energy field formed by their special technology and develop a means of reaction force field to make their defense less powerful. Loki, Belit Thomas, a Prussian female warrior, an extremely warlike, crazy woman. What she loved most was to dismantle these seemingly powerful but actually slow war machines with her bare hands. The huge cross-battle axe in her hand was waved by her seemingly thin but actually muscular arms, blocking the laser cannons of the super-large mechanical life forms and directly counterattacking those attacks. The powerful impact did not make her body retreat at all. Soon she approached those super-large mechanical life forms under the coverage of the laser cannons. When the super-large mechanical life forms are fighting at close range, it is difficult to deal with such a powerful single alien. But they also have their own means of protection, which is to open the hatch and release countless small and medium-sized mechanical life forms from their bodies. Those mechanical life forms fell from the super-large mechanical life forms like dumplings, densely packed around the super-large mechanical life forms to form a large army, waiting to meet the enemy with a covetous look. Loki showed a crazy smile on her face, allowing their laser weapons to shoot at her, but her clothes did not show any signs of being torn. It looks like an ordinary black sweater, but in fact it is made of the most top-notch materials and is more expensive than ordinary combat uniforms. Boom! Holding a cross-battle axe, She rushed into the battle formation of the mechanical army like a hurricane and knocked hundreds of mechanical life forms away just by the collision of her flesh. On the other side, as the bloody smell spread, a huge river of blood spread out in the mechanical army without warning and then gradually submerged their bodies. Death god Hela Louise Andre, she once had a title called Bloody Mary. The blood dragged those mechanical life forms in forcefully, and then white smoke continued to rise. Even the mass-produced machines built by the powerful technology of the mechanical civilization could not withstand the erosion of this high-intensity corrosive liquid. Soon many parts in the machine were destroyed and completely turned into a pile of broken copper and iron. Compared with Loki's simple and crude fighting style, Hela's fighting style is more suitable for group attacks. Her body slowly emerged from the blood river. Looking at the broken remains of mechanical life forms, she touched the corner of her lips with some dissatisfaction. It's really sad. There are all some iron bumps that prevent me from absorbing blood. This really made her a little sad, because if she faced an army of humans or other carbon-based creatures, she could rely on absorbing their blood to make herself immortal, and even turn them into her own zombie puppets. It's a pity that facing these guys, her combat ability will be greatly discounted. The most core area of the battlefield was naturally left to the leaders of both sides. The god King Odin held the Spear of Eternity and started a long and terrifying battle with the demon god Ren, separated by dozens of kilometers. With the help of advanced electronic equipment, they were able to accurately obtain the position of the other party. For Odin, as long as he can observe the existence of the target, the Eternal Spear will eventually hit the opponent the moment he attacks. Unless the Eternal Spear is destroyed. As the defender, if you want to completely eliminate this power, the price you need to pay is several times. This is not a one-to-one offset relationship. The models of the lower demon gods are almost the same, and there is only a difference in appearance. The upper 4 demon gods are more powerful bodies, and the 6 demon gods below A, B, C, and D are not very different in strength. So their abilities are all powerful and single means. As long as you master this point, the battle of the human camp can become simple. After all, as carbon-based creatures, humans can use all kinds of conspiracies and tricks. The lower demon gods and mass-produced machines are fighting according to the established procedures, and it is self-evident who is more likely to reveal flaws. Northern Federation Area. The alien troops of the Bharata Alliance appeared here. They had a great advantage by appearing here, because before them, all the alien troops of the Kermit Kingdom who had conquered them had been killed. So they were not facing the alien troops in the best condition. This was also the reason why they chose this place. Emperor Shirtian's time prelude could see the distant and vague future trajectory and select the best opponent for him. Emperor Shirtian was very confident. He once thought that he was the most powerful alien in the world. After Bharata's alien troops came to Fremon's, they would surely sweep other countries with amazing achievements. But as he came into contact with alien troops that he had never come into contact with in the past, an unspeakable emotion began to emerge in his heart. Anxiety, shame, and anger. He was unwilling to admit in his heart that there were many aliens in the world who were as powerful as him, or even more powerful than him. Even though he had realized this rationally, he was unwilling to admit it. But now, Bharata's alien troops can only be regarded as the upper middle level among the major powers and organizations of mankind. I will end this battle as quickly as possible to prove my strength. The strength of our Bharata. Emperor Shirtian said to himself in his heart when he set out. No matter how weak the kingdom of Kermit is, there are 2 Epsilon-level aliens sitting in it, which can consume some of the combat power of the mechanical army. So, they came to this area. As they thought, there had just been a big battle here, and a large number of mechanical life forms and the bodies of Kermit aliens were left in place. Smoke rose everywhere. Emperor Shirtian's eyes became bright, and his happy mouth was almost grinning to the back of his ears. He ordered the heavenly people behind him, the Garudas led by Gao Changkong, and the Asuras led by Asura, use the fastest speed to flatten this place for me. Fortunately, the mechanical life forms here did not understand these words, otherwise they would definitely cast a questioning look at these humans. What kind of courage made them dare to say this? With a roar, Emperor Sheron jumped high with bare feet, and his three-life body was revealed. He held the bow of Vishnu, drew his bow, and put an arrow on it. The sky was surging with wind and clouds. He was like a god descending to the world, majestically releasing his power. An arrow shot out, and it instantly turned into tens of thousands of arrows, aiming at the mechanical life forms on the ground. Nowadays, the defense field of mechanical life forms has been targeted and cannot effectively reduce energy, so many mechanical life forms are directly penetrated. The golden arrows penetrated into their bodies, and soon there was a violent explosion. In one move, Emperor Sheron killed thousands of mechanical life forms. Such a magnificent scene made the aliens of Garudas shout excitedly. Oh, 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 oh. Emperor Sheron is an invincible existence. Only Gao Changkong and Azura watched this scene coldly, and they did not comment on Emperor Sheron's behavior. He was too proud. In the 3 years after the end of the world, he was praised and flattered by countless people. He is indeed a rare genius, born with supernatural powers, and his speed of improving supernatural power index is much faster than that of ordinary people. However, if a person's life is too smooth, it is difficult for him to recover after experiencing a blow. So, he is too anxious to show himself. As the head coach, Emperor Sheron should not be so anxious, at least not to expose himself to the enemy's vision in order to show his strength. Sure enough, disturbed by this force, the demon god Gung appeared. He is a man-made man with 6 spider-legged mechanical arms on his back. Feeling the power of the human in the sky, he raised his right hand, and a dark firing hole appeared in the palm of his hand. The fighting method of mechanical life forms has always sought the simplest and most effective means, without any temptation. So this move is 100% of his strength. Not only him, but also the 4 super-large mechanical life forms on the battlefield, facing Emperor Sheron in the sky. The main gun began to store energy. Azura glanced at Deng Shintong and said, "It's time for us to enter the field. We can't really watch Emperor Sheron being besieged. Emperor Sheron is the main force. Although he really wants to see Emperor Sheron suffer, if something happens to Emperor Sheron, they are afraid that they will not be able to survive. So they must go over to help him." Gao Changkong nodded. Understood. He never took the initiative to express his suggestions during this operation, because both Emperor Sheron and Asiro were on guard against him. However, Gao Changkong performed very well. He was like a silent and useful mercenary who would work conscientiously according to the employer's requirements. Moreover, according to his strength, he was only the 3rd position in the team. He only needed to follow his elder brother and second brother to do his job well. Azura took a step forward, his eyes wide open, and his muscular body suddenly burst out with a terrifying force, and his anger changed the situation. Aha! He roared like a beast, and his skin quickly turned charcoal black, and even his entire face became black. Patches of spots attached to his body, as red as blood, made him look like a ghost. Azura, a strengthening alien. Ability, Great Brahma Mantra. When he is furious, he can transform into water holding and burst out the most ferocious power. Azura held a trident and rushed straight to the battlefield. Gao Changkong and others followed closely and began to join the war. Emperor Sheron was emitting light all over his body and hung high in the air. The attacks of demon god Gung and the super-large mechanical life form were fierce. With a slight wave of his left hand, the golden energy turned into liquid and condensed into a world-honored heavenly umbrella. After he opened the umbrella, it began to rotate at a constant speed, forming a series of golden energy barriers in front of him. Several powerful attacks arrived in an instant and hit the defense of the world-honored heavenly umbrella fiercely. Emperor Sheron's defense layer soon showed signs of cracking, and he hurriedly raised the conch shell and blew a loud howl. As the conch shell made a sound that resounded through the sky, the image of the sea appeared behind Emperor Sheron, and waves swept in, blocking the attacks of demon god Gung and the super-large mechanical life form. The collision of the two forces made Emperor Sheron retreat a very long distance. Until this time, Azura, Gao Changkong and others rushed into the battlefield. Azura took the initiative to attack the super-large mechanical life form, which relieved a lot of pressure for Emperor Shirtian. Emperor Shirtian breathed a sigh of relief and looked at demon god Gung with a serious look. In fact, he discovered something in the last battle. The 10 demon gods are different from all other mechanical life forms, because they are life forms with real souls and self-awareness. As long as they are life forms, that's enough. When Emperor Shirtian first entered Fremons, he was really helpless against those mass-produced machines, because his ability is to trace and predict people or creatures. But this ability cannot work on non-organic objects. But if the opponent is an organic life, his ability can be used. Emperor Shirtian looked at the demon god Gung below, and the smile on his mouth was almost uncontrollable. He raised the Vishnu bow in his hand and pulled the bow to its full length in a gorgeous manner. Although from the perspective of releasing superpowers, this action is completely unnecessary, but he likes this exaggerated gesture very much because, cool. Destroy it. Swoosh. The golden arrow in his hand flew out, but disappeared in front of his eyes in an instant. The next moment, it appeared behind the demon god Gung's head. The warning of crisis sounded in the mind of demon god Gung, and his body felt the powerful and destructive force approaching his body. Since it was on his back, his body could not effectively block it, so he directly increased the performance of his body to the maximum and moved to the left. The golden arrow exploded in the back of his head when his core began to calculate a lot. It seemed that a golden sun rose above the earth, covering an entire spherical space. Chapter 1824 Traitor. Demon god Gung was within the attack range of Vishnu's arrows. The attack happened within a few feet, which caught him off guard. Although he tried his best to dodge it at the first time, his body was still severely injured. The armor on his shoulders and neck broke apart, and black residue fell to the ground. Emperor Shirtian had a brief fight with demon god Xian before, but in that battle, Emperor Shirtian was not clear about the strength of these demons and regarded them as mechanical life forms, so he did not use time ability. Therefore, not much information was exposed. This trick was not in the information database, and demon god Gung was hit in a hurry. His core center was running rapidly, and Emperor Shirtian saw that this trick worked, and a confident smile appeared on his face. It's just as I thought. He drew his bow and arrow again, aiming at the position of demon god Gung. Demon god Gung's body suddenly turned into a residual shadow, rushing towards Emperor Shirtian's position in a snake shape. Just now, he was in that area and did not move, so he was attacked. So he wanted to try to move at high speed to avoid being locked. At the same time, as long as Emperor Shirtian's attack failed, he would use this short time to close the distance and then launch a counterattack. The fast-moving demon god Gung was like a black afterimage. In the eyes of humans, he was a black mist that kept zigzagging in the air. However, when the golden holy arrow was released from Emperor Shirtian's hand, it disappeared from his sight in an instant. The next moment, the arrow appeared in front of the demon god Gung, who was moving at super high speed. The golden arrow pointed at his forehead. The demon god Gung, who was moving at super high speed, could not avoid the fate of being hit at this time. He didn't expect that he was so fast and would be locked by the attack. Dash. He had no time to stop his high-speed moving body in the air. He could only try his best to change the direction of movement and try to move his head away from the direction pointed by the arrow. In just a moment, the golden holy arrow burst out with terrible energy. A huge golden sphere expanded in the air, completely covering the demon god Gung. Emperor Shirtian's face showed an ecstatic look, and his face was even a little distorted and scary. I said, "My ability is invincible. Not everyone can resist my ability like chaos. I am a great prophet." Time ability, one of the top abilities among all superpowers, represents infinite changes, unpredictable, and anticipating the enemy's moves, making it hard to defend. If it weren't for the fact that Zhang Yi's time second hand had a higher mechanism than Emperor Shirtian in the life and death battle, Emperor Sheron would not have lost so badly in that battle, and even been killed 6 times in a row by Zhang Yi in the field of 7 Treasures Gold Order. 7 Treasures Gold Order is Emperor Sheron's most powerful ability. It can only be used 7 times against any person or organic life form, which represents his 7 chances. Any chance, as long as he can kill the enemy, can turn this result into reality. And once he fails, he can choose to return to the starting point of the battle when he is defeated, and everything that happened in the past becomes an illusion. Emperor Sheron finally felt the long-lost pleasure on the body of demon god Gung. But the next moment, in the golden light, a red beam of light shot out, pointing directly at the area where Emperor Sheron was. The light came so suddenly and so fast that before Emperor Sheron could recover from his joy, it had already arrived in front of him. The red beam contained terrifying energy, a powerful force that could directly wipe him out. There was no probing fight. As long as any flaw was revealed, the opponent would wipe him out with the most fierce means. After enduring the power of the golden holy arrow, the demon god Gung also chose to directly overload the energy and burn the red energy crystal to deliver a fatal blow. That terrifying energy can directly disintegrate the molecular structure of almost all substances. Emperor Sheron only felt a chill on his back. His ability was running wildly, and his 6 arms were holding different magic tools. At this moment, he also broke through his own limits, regardless of how his body would be destroyed, and burst out with amazing power. The wonderful vision wheel danced rapidly at his fingertips. The conch shells rang. The Gathagata hammer shook the sky, the world-honored one's Tianluo umbrella rotated constantly, and thousands of light curtains were hung down. All the means that could be used to resist the attack were used by him. In the sky, Emperor Sheron saw the broken face of demon god Gung. His body was shattered in many places by the golden holy arrow, and even his head was almost blown to pieces, but he looked even more hideous and terrifying at this time. The first level of the 7 Treasures Golden Steps gradually dimmed. On the desolate battlefield, smoke rose everywhere. The radiation concentration here had reached a terrifying level. Ordinary people could not approach at all, otherwise they would be killed directly by the powerful energy radiation in the air, and their bodies would disintegrate. The earth was broken, and there were traces of burning everywhere. Emperor Sheron stood on the ground with his legs. His body was covered with wounds, and blood flowed down his muscles, gathering into a small puddle on the ground. He was panting heavily, and his physical strength was a little exhausted at this time, but there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. The 7 Treasures Golden Steps behind him had dimmed for levels, but in the 5th reincarnation realm, he successfully killed demon god Gung. Although the price paid was extremely heavy and he was almost killed, it was all worth it. His right hand held an energy core that was less than the size of a fist. The body of the demon god Gung in front of him was already damaged, and his head was smashed open. Looking at the spoils in front of him, Emperor Sheron looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha. The winner is me. It's me, Emperor Sheron. I'm the strongest. 2 subordinates of the heavenly people came to Emperor Sheron and immediately supported the somewhat weak Emperor Sheron. Emperor of Heaven, you won. This battle will surely be recorded in the history of Bharata, and all the people of Bharata will praise your great achievements. Emperor Sheron put his arms on their shoulders, and his body was already a little shaky at this time. This battle was too difficult for him. He didn't have the unsolvable defense like Zhang Yi, so when facing the overload attack of the demon god Gung, he died several times before finding a way to deal with it. Even so, he was now scarred and unable to continue fighting. Emperor of Heaven, let's go back first. The remaining battlefield here will be left to the Asuras and Garudas, said a subordinate. Emperor Sheron's body was supported by them, and he was already extremely tired at this time. He lowered his head and said slowly, "My mission has been accomplished. I have killed the demon god Gung. The remaining minions will be left to them. After all, they have to do something to prove their worth." The 2 subordinates immediately answered yes. They first carried the remains of the demon god Gung. Then one of them put his right hand on Emperor Sheron to heal his injuries. The other alien immediately summoned a whirlwind to cover the three people, then took off and rushed away. At the same time, they conveyed Emperor Sheron's words to Azura and Emperor Sheron. Fierce fighting is still going on the battlefield. Although Emperor Sheron defeated the demon god Gung, there are still many tricky guys to deal with in this huge battlefield. After Zhu Shui died, the mechanical life forms that received combat orders would only act according to the last order they received. That is, kill all humans. Their eyes flashed with red light. In the last second before they were completely destroyed, they would kill all the enemies in front of them at all costs. Even if the humans in front of them died, they would go looking for creatures called humans and kill them all. All the machines were in a disordered rampage state. Although they had done enough research on mechanical life forms, the battle was not as embarrassing as the first time, but they still had a hard time. Gao Chongkong and Azura had to face 4 super-large mechanical life forms. If they were not careful, they would be hit by their laser cannons. Even as a black chariot-level alien, it would be difficult to bear. After Emperor Sheron left, Azura frowned. There were still many mechanical life forms on the scene that needed to be dealt with, but as a black chariot-level enhanced alien, with an ability index of up to 26,000 points, he could slowly clean up the entire battlefield. Garuda, come and assist me and help me clean up the miscellaneous soldiers around here. Azura ordered Gao Chongkong. Gao Chongkong nodded with a smile. Yes, Lord Azura. Holding the trident, Azura leaped hundreds of meters high and stabbed at the super-large mechanical life form in front. It was a tank-type mechanical life form with extremely solid armor. Facing Azura's active attack, its muzzle spewed out powerful energy cannons. Azura roared, without any dodge, and chose to go straight. The trident in his hand pointed at its muzzle and stabbed it. The extremely powerful energy cannon, encountering the trident, was like a raging flood encountering a mountain, and was directly diverted, without causing any damage to Azura. Azura landed under its attack, jumped onto its body, and began to destroy it unscrupulously. The trident burst out with destructive power, piercing the hard armor of the mechanical life form, and the energy burst out instantly. After a huge roar, the head of the tank-type mechanical life form was directly chopped off. Gao Chongkong took his men Gu Man and Badu to clean up the mass-produced machines around. The golden holy sword in his hand shone with bright light, and with one swing of the sword, dozens of machines exploded directly. Gu Man raised her slender palm and pointed in the air. Huge, translucent barriers appeared, trapping those mechanical life forms. Then, she opened her cherry lips and chanted, "Explode!" The barrier collapsed, and the power that erupted instantly destroyed those mechanical life forms. Bada followed the two of them, shaking a few white dice in his hand, with different symbols engraved on them. Dozens of mechanical life forms rushed towards him in front, and Bada flicked his fingers, and a white ghost-faced dice soared into the air and flew above them. As Bada pressed down with one hand, the dice suddenly grew larger, turned into the size of a hill, and then fell down with a bang. Boom! All those mechanical life forms were pressed down by the dice. After Emperor Sheron left, Azura, Gao Chongkong, and others spent more than 2 hours to completely clean up the battlefield. It's not that they are too weak, but these mechanical life forms are too tenacious. Unless they are completely destroyed, they will continue to fight. After this battle, the alien army lost a lot. When they first came, there were more than 100 elite aliens in the 3 major groups, and the weakest one was more than 8,000 points. But now, only more than 20 people are still alive. Azura wiped the blood from his forehead. He was also injured in the battle just now, but for a black chariot-level enhanced alien, this injury is not fatal. After this battle, we need to go back and rest for a while. Azura said so. He turned around. Although his strong body was covered with scars, it looked full of wild beauty. Azura looked at Gao Chongkong, who was walking towards him with the golden holy sword on the ground, stepping on the broken mechanical life forms. Azura ordered in a deep voice, "Tell the Tishitas beside you to collect all the important materials and don't leave them to the Fremons." Gao Changkong nodded, with a smile on his face, and his eyes narrowed into a slit. Suddenly, two fierce attacks cut through the sky, attacking Azura's back with unparalleled murderous intent. Two powerful Azuras armed with sharp weapons attacked their leader when Azura was unprepared. Azura had been on guard against Gao Changkong. He did not trust this outsider. Because his attention was focused on Gao Changkong and the other two, he did not notice his subordinates at this time. Two Delta-level aliens actually slashed his back with their weapons. Azura's body shook. Their attacks did not tear Azura's defense, but the sudden change surprised him, and he didn't understand why it happened. Gao Changkong also made a move at this time. He suddenly raised the golden holy sword in his hand and slashed at Azura at the speed of light. The golden holy sword burst out with a powerful sword light, and the sharp energy swept across, aiming at Azura's neck. The power made Azura's pupils shrink suddenly, because he smelled the breath of death. In a hurry, he suddenly burst out with a powerful force, directly shaking the two Azuras behind him away. Then he raised the trident and blocked in front of himself. Boom! Gao Changkong's sword light slashed in front of him, and the power was so strong that Azura, who was caught off guard, flew backwards, and his legs plowed two deep grooves on the ground. His heart was full of questions. He didn't know why his men rebelled, and he didn't understand how Gao Changkong dared to suddenly turn against him at this time. But he knew one thing: Gao Changkong had always been hiding his strength. His anger was burning. This guy, as he thought, was harboring evil intentions. Garuda! Azura roared angrily. But Gao Changkong smiled and attacked again. His attack was like a violent storm, not giving Azura any chance to adjust his state. Azura fought with Gao Changkong, and the more he fought, the more frightened he became. Although he was powerful, he could not gain any advantage in the fight with Gao Changkong. On the contrary, Gao Changkong responded very well to every attack. It was as if Gao Changkong had figured out all his attack methods. Garuda, what do you want to do? Azura roared angrily. Gao Changkong's attack did not stop. He just looked at Azura with a smile. Isn't it obvious? I want to kill you. After you die, the position above me will be vacant again. The 8 divisions of the Heavenly Dragon are led by 8 powerful Ypsilons. And now, Yaksha and Maharaga have been killed by Zhang Yi. These two are the strongest among the 8 divisions. After their death, there are not many people whose strength ranks before Gao Changkong. This is under the premise that he has concealed his strength. In fact, he also obtained the origin of the general of the Nash Kingdom and other spoils of war under the Great Snow Mountain. In addition, the ability of the Zen Seal to perform reincarnation deduction allows him to constantly try and find the most suitable path for improving his strength. Gao Changkong is a genius, a real genius. Even though he is in a foreign land and has been suppressed, he still relies on his own strength to become a powerful existence with an ability index of up to 26,000 points. Azura was breathing heavily. He had just experienced a great battle and was not in perfect condition. On the other hand, Gao Changkong had never used his full strength since he came to Fremons. It was not until Emperor Sheron left that he burst out with his true strength. Azura's eyes swept over the Azura's aliens. They all looked dull, like puppets. Are you curious about what happened to them? Gao Changkong smiled and said, I'm sorry, when we were fighting just now, I secretly implanted my puppet mark in them. Now, they are just my puppets. Azura was shocked and angry. He clenched the trident in his hand and shouted loudly, Garuda, do you want to die by doing this? You can't hide from Emperor Shirtian's eyes. You are a traitor to Huashu country. If you lose the blessing of my Bharata, you will definitely die. Gao Changkong shook his head. Huashu country traitor? No, you seem to be mistaken. Failure is called rebellion. Victory is called revolution. And I, Gao Changkong, have not failed yet. By the way, I'll tell you something. He slowly opened his eyes deep with a hint of teasing. I've been in Bharata for 3 years, and I've already figured out Indra's abilities. So I know very well how to avoid his gaze. Now he doesn't have the energy to care about your life or death. Don't worry, I will blame the mechanical civilization for your death. After listening to Gao Changkong's words, Azura's eyes turned red because of anger. He knew that this guy was not simple, and he might have come to Barada with bad intentions, but he didn't expect Gao Changkong to be so despicable. He pointed the trident in his hand at Gao Changkong and roared angrily, "Garuda! Don't forget that when you were most desperate, it was Barada who took you in and gave you the opportunity to rise. Do you deserve us by doing this?" Gao Changkong sneered at this. "With my ability at that time, I would be treated as a guest of honor no matter which faction I went to. You just invited me here because you saw my ability. We are just exchanging interests, so what kind of favor can we talk about?" Azura knew that today would not end peacefully anyway, so he roared and burst out with tremendous power. His code name, Azura, represents the demon god of Barada. Azura is very consistent with his title, and his fighting style is also simple and rough. The top-level enhanced aliens rely on their own powerful strength. It is almost difficult to find a rival in close combat. However, his enemy Gao Changkong is a special ability user. What is a special ability? Possessing two or more ability attributes at the same time. For example, Zhang Yi has the two abilities of time and space. However, Gao Changkong's ability, Heavenly Dance Wheel, has endless changes. He is also good at close combat. Behind Gao Changkong, the Heavenly Dance Wheel slowly emerged and mysterious Sanskrit spells were turning. Badu and Guman slowly retreated behind them. They could not intervene in this battle. But in the current situation, Azura couldn't escape. Since they decided to attack, they had already blocked all his escape routes. Moreover, he was exhausted because he had just experienced a war. As for sending a signal to the outside world to inform the outside world of the situation here, it was impossible. Before they took action, they had already blocked the information of the entire area. This matter is easy to explain. When the time comes, they can say that it was done by the mechanical civilization. Akalanatha. Gao Changkong made a seal with his left hand. As soon as the Akalanatha seal came out, a thick golden armor was transformed by supernatural power and covered his whole body like a substance. He was wearing golden armor and holding the Sunwheel sword, looking as majestic as a god. Azura's body was wrapped in monstrous black air. The water-holding form was his most violent posture, and the power he burst out was also infinite. He held the trident and crossed the distance between the two in an instant. The sonic boom caused purely by his flesh broke the eardrums of the puppet Azuras, who didn't have time to get away, and blood flowed. Gao Changkong smiled, but his eyes were serious and cold as he stared at Azura, who was attacking him. The trident stabbed at his face, and the Sunwheel sword was raised, blocking the attack just right. Boom! The terrifying energy exploded with the two of them as the center. Fortunately, Guman and Badu were far away, so they were not affected. But seeing the aftermath of that terrifying power, Badu couldn't help laughing and said, "How terrible! Is this the power of the Ypsilon level?" Even if the Ypsilon is the lowest level white chariot, the power it displays is not something that a Delta-level alien can imagine. This is the gap in life level. Guman's hands naturally hung at her side, and she also had a smile on her face, but she maintained a fighting posture. Once there is any change on the battlefield, she will take action at the first time.